Now we're streaming. My name is Freeman Michaels, and I am not running for Congress in California's 52nd District.
And I am Danielle St. John, and I am running for Congress in California's 49th District.
We are streaming live in all of our little favorite platforms here. I think Chew is no longer working, so we have to remove that. And the most popular place, of course, is Danielle's Facebook wall, but your Periscope seems to be kind of picking up steam there.
Yeah, definitely.
The topic today is what happened with my campaign. If you don't know, I received an email from someone from the county saying that I did not turn in enough valid signatures. You need 40 to turn in, and they give you a max of 60. So if something goes wrong, then you can at least have, we got a lot of feedback here. Hold on a second. If something goes wrong, then you can have some of the buffer zone. And I think we turned in 55. I can't quite remember the numbers. We had validated at the office 45. I had done that, or I didn't personally do it. I had a friend do it, and then you validated a bunch of mine at the office. And what that does is that verifies that what the address they wrote and the name matches, so that they're a valid voter and that they are in your district. Right. And we did 45 of mine, and then we had someone else come and bring and validate. He said 5 more, might have been 4. So we should have had 49 valid and turned in 55. The numbers that I got from the email weren't quite that, so there was something off. I'm not really so worried about that. But what was interesting is that when my friend went back to the voter registrars just to make sure that, hey, did we really turn in all these bad addresses? Let's figure out what happened. I think, and I have to get the actual data, but what I was told, and I posted this on Facebook, was that there was, what do you say, the signatures weren't matching the voter registration file, which I think it comes from the DMV, as opposed to what these people signed on the clipboard. And also remember, these are people we just ran into at Mesa College and said, hey, can you sign? I'm running for Congress. Like we're going to check their ID and say, your signature's not really matched.
Can you re-sign?
It's like, that's absurd. And that, I mean, it's, and people suggested that maybe I fight this. I think a similar thing, I don't know what the details are with Stephen Jaffe, so he's running for Congress against Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi, of course, is one of the top dog Democrats. And of course, the Democratic Party would try to thwart his campaign. That's no surprise. But I think he turned in a bunch of stuff early, and now they got a lawsuit going to try and validate the signatures. And to me, it just shows where the government is at. They have no intention of changing. They have no intention of allowing change. And I thought that I would come across some BS at some point. I didn't think it was going to be this soon. And I thought I would be on the ballot and whatnot. But to me, this is just like, oh, of course. Of course they would knock me down at least 2 signatures so that and you wouldn't have a recourse. It's like, I get why you want to have signatures to be on the ballot. That's legit. I mean, it's a little weird of a process, but that's still, you have to go out and meet the people you're representing. That's cool. But then to say there's no recourse if you don't get enough signatures, I don't know. That doesn't seem like a good way to get new ideas out.
Right. And I mean, I've been putting some thought into this too. I actually, so part of my story is the last 2 days was pretty rushed for me getting all of the last minute paperwork in. And so when I was at the very end of the process, it was the validation process. Or in the front, there's there's computers, right, that are set up so that you can go in and just make sure that the voters are registered in your district, exactly, like all of these little things, like their address matches, just make sure that they're all of these little tiny details, right?
And you were on the computer. I wasn't even.
Yeah.
I didn't even see how detailed that computer stuff was.
Right.
There's a lot of clicking and
yeah, there is. I mean, it's not like super complicated. I think if I had more than a 3-minute, training on it from the lady, and it's not her fault. It was like Black Friday at the office. I'm not trying to blame the people that are working there.
It's just the whole process was silly.
Right. There was a lot of candidates coming in and out, and so and I know there was at one point where I was validating. I validated probably about 2 pages out of the 6 that I had, 6 or 7 that I had, and then I think I like pushed a button or something, and then I got like 5 in a row that were invalid, wrong, wrong state, and I'm just like, but the fifth one just happened to be a family member, which I know for sure had not moved, at all, like in the last 15 years or so, and was registered in 2016. We talked a lot about the primary. So I know that she was registered, and I know that she hadn't moved and there'd been nothing. So at that point, we were after 5 o'clock anyway. The waiting room was still filled with the candidates. This was the Thursday before, right? It's due on Friday at 5. So I still have another whole day, work day. And so at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give up, and I'm going to go home because I can't. It was
We were so done.
Yeah, it was a long day, and so and I just remember thinking about this because Freeman's first go around, they invalidated like 25 signatures out of their original set of signatures.
Just pages wiped out.
Yeah, and so we went back out and got more signatures, and I'm just wondering because I went back in the next day and I asked my representative. What's going on? I know that at least one of these people has not moved and meets the criteria, lives in my district. And she goes, well, let's see. And she pulls it up on the computer and she goes, oh, no, she's there. And so I'm like, okay, can we go back over the 5 that, the previous ones that I just invalidated? And we did that. And most of those were valid too. And so I'm wondering how many of those 25 signatures were also
so
valid.
We took those out because they're invalid. Let's go out and get some more. Mm-hmm. Had we just left a few of those most likely valid signatures on, that would have been the 2. But again, that gets down to the question, would it really have been? Because I'm sure that 2 of those signatures were at least on the border of, odds are this isn't a fake signature, and none of them were, unless the people I asked to help me lied to me as well. But certainly all the ones that I saw weren't fake signatures that we all handed the clipboard to everyone. And I would imagine if the institution of governance, if our government, if our voter registrars, the Democrats or Republicans, wanted more voices in the community, they wouldn't be throwing out these little ticky-tacky things. And I think if they didn't find these 2 items there, they would have found something else. Mm-hmm. And I'm convinced of that because it's like just remember all the NAs you had to put on all the lines. I'm like, really? Do I have to put NA on every line? Yep. Like, well, they may throw it out. I'm like, are you?
My lady said they will throw it out.
That's so dumb.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. So people say that I should fight it. And to me, it's petitioning government for change is like banging your head against the wall. And I think it's time for us to accept that. And I still want to try and clean up government. And Danielle is still running for office as a Green. And I'm all about that. That's the best way to get the cooperative economy going. So I'm not slowing down in any way doing that. But it should be yet another example of how the government just isn't either equipped, designed, incentivized to deal with any changes. And I did a live stream about the concept of clubs and how the concept of democracy in a club just kind of prevents people's voices coming out. And here's just another example of, it's like there's no incentive to change, so the institution that you are trying to get to change is going to put stop. And that's why you just have to fight every step of the way. And it's fighting with BS that they've set up. It's legal BS, it's paperwork BS, and it's all crap meant to discourage people that you would actually want to run from office. It's meant to discourage them from running for office.
The whole process is.
The whole thing. And it's almost like lawyers on different sides got together and like, wow, this process really sucks. It's too bad we're the only ones that they can pay to do it because we're the only ones that can figure it out.
Right.
That's like the feeling I get from the whole process.
Right. So, and just, to clarify, I got my email. I'm good to go with my signatures.
So Sonia says you need to fight this. Yeah. Here's the thing, Sonia. I don't think that there is a fight to be had, and I'm big on, and I know a lot of progressives don't like it when I say this, but I'm big on not protesting unless it's like you're really going to get something done. I'm big on not canvassing because that's it's a low amount of return for a lot of effort. People spend all day to gather 100 signatures, which politicians are just going to throw away. I would just as soon spend all day Saturday doing something else that's going to give returns. And to fight this, yes, I could probably spend some money on a lawyer and I could spend a lot of my time doing that. But really my goal is to get humanity to cooperate. And I don't need to be in office to do that. And make no mistake, I wish I was. I wish I was still in the race. I'm bummed that I'm not, but at the same time, I don't need to be. And Danielle is still in the race. She's got her receipts and she's completely on board with the cooperative economy. We're still going to be doing these streams. Nothing is going to change except the fact that I'm personally not on the ballot. And to me, that's not really even worth a fight. And not to make an excuse out of this, because again, if I had the choice right now, I would be in the race. There's no question about it. I'm not trying to say it's not a big deal. It sucks. But if I could go back, if I went back in time and you said, Freeman, you're going to go change the world, and after I was done laughing at you, they would say, would you like to be front and center of all the attention, or would you like someone else to be running for Congress and being out in front? I would choose the latter, of course, every time. I'm not the type of person that wants to be front and center. And now I kind of have that with Danielle running on the cooperative economy platform and with the Green Party helping her out. And again, I wish I was in the race, but to me, I kind of got what I wanted. It's like I got the cooperative economy, I got someone helping me do it, and I don't have to be the one that's always in the limelight. And I think for me, that's kind of a win-win. Even though, again, I wish, I don't know if anyone read the article I wrote on Medium, but I basically wrote that I had this itchy feeling that I was going to be short. And I had 2 people on the way home that said, Freeman, we'll be glad to sign, then you could turn it in on the next day. We did this the day before. And I had 2 people that said, they're friends of mine, I know they're registered, or at least, assuming my friends weren't lying to me. And we could have stopped and we could have gotten that night. And I had that itchy feeling and I was just done. I was irritated that day. I'm just like, I want to be done with this. We validated 45. What are the odds that more than 5 were bad? Odds are good. And I also had a friend coming to deliver 5 more the next day. So what are the odds that all those 5 were bad and the 5 that he was going to deliver were bad? Well, odds are good. So to me, there was a lesson for me to learn, but at the end of the day, I kind of got what I wanted. It's like I'm still on the path of pushing the cooperative economy. We still have a means to address our government through this congressional race, and your race is quite exciting. Mm-hmm. We have the Green Party as opposed to just me doing it as a independent. So it sucks, but it's not. I don't think it's even worth our time to fight. Even if I got back on the ballot, there's some other crap that they're going to pull next, and I'm confident of that. To me, petitioning the government is kind of like if you have maybe someone who doesn't like you and you're like, hey man, can you write a letter of recommendation? And then they look at you weird and they're like, yeah, I'll do that. And then they give you this letter back and it's not legible. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, you know what, great, thanks for the effort, but maybe this time can you keep it in the lines? And they're like, yeah, no problem. And they come back 6 weeks later and they're like, oh, okay, here you go. And you're like, okay, great. You kept it in the lines and it's legible, but maybe this time can you write it in English? And they just keep coming back, and every time they're going to keep fucking it up because they're not incentivized to do it right. They're not your friend. If you give a letter of recommendation to an enemy, they're not going to give you a good recommendation. And for me, that's kind of like the government. They're not incentivized to help us. And it is, to me, naive to assume that they are. Mm-hmm. So for me, the fact that they got me on some technicality because some signatures from randos I met on a college campus didn't match the voter file, it's like shocking.
Right.
Shocked.
Right.
If they got me on that one, they'll get on something else. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
So it's like there's no legal fight here. Mm-hmm. The Stephen Jaffe can have that fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think it's good to raise awareness of these issues that people will face. And I think that one of our main goals in this was to put some transparency on the process of running for office. I think that it's time for everybody to start realizing. And it's something that we think about, and it's something that they teach us in school, that we have control of this stuff. But if you look at the situations, if you look at the reality of our political structure, when it's for me, it was about just to get my name on the ballot, and that's not the book that everybody reads, but just to get my name on the ballot, it was close to $2,000, right? So that effectively puts the majority of Americans it leaves the Americans without the ability.
Yeah, who's got an extra $2,000 just lying around?
Exactly, and that's just the very, very beginning, just to get the paperwork, right? Just to, say you're going to fill out the paperwork, you have to write this check. So
yeah, just to get the paperwork to go out and get signatures.
Yeah, exactly. Now, and I know, to be fair, you can start the process earlier and get lots and lots and lots of signatures. But when I decided to run,
they'll throw out the signatures.
Yeah.
Signature's no good. Sorry.
Right. So anyway, that this is all kind of part of the process is bringing awareness to these kind of problems that a lot of people are going to face, and so now my campaign, we're still good, we're still in the running, we have our signatures confirmed. I've got the email and everything, making a lot of just a lot of contact with the Green Party. Major announcement is my campaign manager Justin is coming out tomorrow. Yeah. So finally he's going to be here in San Diego to start helping with outreach. And of course, since Freeman is no longer burdened with a political campaign,
I got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
That's all I had. That was the only thing I had going. I'm not working. So
yeah, he can help in whatever way he is inspired to help on our campaign, just like everybody else can.
I wanted to bring up something because Sonia mentioned that part of why this stuff goes on is because no one challenges it, and you are absolutely right. Mm-hmm. And I would even like to bring up Bernie in this because I think Bernie got cheated in the primary, and I think that we need to come to grips with the crappiness of our democracy. Mm-hmm. And it would have been nice if Bernie talked about that. I think there's a difference between talking about it and pursuing it legally, because pursuing it legally is playing their game. Like, what am I going to get an emergency lawsuit to get back on the? It's just like that whole. If they're willing to throw out a few signatures, and because that's a judgment. At some point, there's going to be a judgment issue by someone in the government, and I cannot imagine that favor is going to go in my direction.
Yeah.
And I think by talking about it, that is the way we fight it. Mm-hmm. Right now, there is no main group of people that are like us against the government. The people don't have a voice. And I think the way that we can get a voice is to first accept where we are. Mm-hmm. And where we are is that we don't have a very good democratic system, and we don't have a system that encourages new ideas to come to the surface, and getting me into office isn't a priority. Right. It's getting this message out, mm-hmm. getting the idea of cooperation out, and accepting where we are as Americans and where we are as human beings on this planet.
And I think maybe just to kind of clarify, I think there's a lot of little groups out there that are fighting the system. There's a lot of amazing activists out there that really are causing the system to react and in a way that is favorable to us. But I think that we have to figure out some way to get these groups, these very amazing people, to come together under one umbrella. It doesn't have to be necessarily a party. Mm-hmm. And I think that we're seeing, right now, I know that there's a lot of, even in the progressive movement, as we speak, there is probably some kind of catty Facebook stuff going on among progressives who if you want to get real, all of us met because we wanted under the Unity Project. Mm-hmm. All of us.
Ironically, yeah.
All different parties. Everybody was represented in this right after the election, and it's really kind of funny because some of the key players of the Unity Project are kind of giving us some pushback and causing some division. And I really hope that we can get past this, because we all do have the same message in this. We all have, and we are much
stronger.
As a matter of fact, we all know it's impossible to do this without each other.
Right.
And so we are certainly much stronger the more people come together. So. And
it's one of those things where progressives tend to, if you disagree, and we know this, we are progressives, so we're not trying to say it's them, it's us. This is how we kind of behave. But progressives tend to be, if you disagree with us, that's like a shot to the heart. And that's because at the end of the day, when you push a progressive, we make our decision based on our heart. What is the morality of the situation? We always want to stand up for the little guy. And when someone disagrees with you, it feels like they're not standing up for the little guy. And you're like, well, why wouldn't you do this? And it doesn't even become about logic and reason anymore. It becomes about, why aren't you taking this moral stance? And that's unfortunately that's like almost like an authoritarian way to be, because there are other ways to interpret the situation. And progressives oftentimes are so obsessed with either, some people say it's too pure, or you're not being pragmatic, instead of just acknowledging, hey, maybe we are viewing the situation in different ways and maybe we have different solutions. Let's figure out how we can work on some common solutions. And instead of saying, well, you're gonna jeopardize Applegate, or you're gonna jeopardize this. It's like, that's the type of thinking. And I'm not saying you have to change your vote, but that's the type of thinking that is preventing us from coming together. That's the type of thinking that's preventing people from getting involved in politics in the first place. There's such a large group of people that just don't care about politics, and I don't blame them at all. I don't blame people for not voting. I know there's a lot in the Democratic circle, and people are like, oh my God, I can't believe we have to remind people to vote. And this is what I got when I went to the Democratic training. And I'm like, maybe if we gave them something to vote for, maybe if we behave like adults and actually tried to talk about these issues instead of just like, oh my God, you're gonna cause this gonna happen. It's like, I'm just like, oh my God, shut the F up. It's so infuriating.
And can I just say that there are 16 people running in my district. Why is everybody picking on the green?
Well, this is, hold on a second.
There's only one of me.
Let me go back to this. I'm not sure. So this was going to be my district. I didn't get a screenshot from yours. But this was like, look how I'm just like, oh, I'm salivating at this. You have one incumbent who, I'm sorry, Scott, he's such an establishment guy. I almost don't even know anything about the guy because he's not going to do anything to piss off the Democrats. He's not going to do anything to piss off the people that aren't really watching. He's just like, as long as he can not be seen, he's great. And I think that's kind of his MO. And then you have a bunch of Republican clowns, no offense to Republican clowns, but I didn't see any of them doing anything that I was all that worried about. And then there's me. And that's all the people that were running in this district. Democracy is so messed up right now that I could see someone just saying, you know what, I'm not going to vote for the incumbent, and I'm not voting for a Democrat. This guy's got the word free in his name. I'm going to vote for him. Like, I could see a lot of people actually making that case. And it's like, so close.
Yeah.
But so far away.
But we're not.
But your district is a completely different story. Like there was a sea of blues, and then there's a few reds, and then I thought there was a couple incumbents, or was it? Oh no, there's like a Peace and Freedom.
Yeah, Jordan Mills is it? Which I mean, he's.
But your green dot looked the best on Ballotopedia.
I
So
think
there was,
so.
yeah.
I think so too. Yeah. So anyway, and honestly, like what we are trying to do is kind of introduce the concept that if you are a regular person and you feel that you are a leader and you can represent your community well, if you feel that our government doesn't represent us, and if you've ever been told, well, if you don't like it, change the system, run for something. There are lots of local offices, and there's also, these federal offices too. I'm starting with this one because I have Facebook, through Facebook, a national audience. So I thought that I would get I would have the best shot at this seat. But another thing that I'm really trying to do is give people something to hope for again, right? I'm just a normal person. I'm not establishment. I don't have, I'm not taking any corporate money, so I can say the truth, and it's
You can say what you want to say.
It's liberating, and it feels great. And I've lived in my community most of my life. So yes, I think I am very, very well qualified to represent my community. I think maybe another criteria that we should have is that you should be able to get around most of your district without using Google Maps, honestly. Like, if you don't know your district that well, then maybe you shouldn't be running it. And I think that
I love my maps.
No, but honestly, I think that we really need to start encouraging the leaders that we see among us, to actually run, and we're trying to make this process as
like your community leaders, like
yes.
people you're like, you would make a good politician, and they're like, no, that's crazy, but you can make it easier for them to do.
Well, I'm not a politician, so that's kind of like what I'm trying to end politicians because they just don't really do much for us.
You're trying to end a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So, anyway, I want to give you guys something to hope for again, and if we can get me elected to this seat, then just think of the possibilities. Just think of what it could do for people all over the country who never thought that a normal person could be a politician. So that's my goal. And, to save the world.
Do you want to address that question?
Let's see. What's happening? Well, I thought I kind of addressed. So what's happening with Tanya Singh? I don't know. I don't really want this to be. It's certainly not going to be a bitch fest at all. I think that Tanya has a lot of very pure motives. I think we met the same way we met because we saw a vision for this country that was the same, and I don't think that has changed. And I don't have any bad blood. I would like just maybe a conversation with my friend. I mean, I feel like we've been through a war together. I think that there's no reason at all that we can't come together and talk. We have the same purpose. We have the same goals, and I think that honestly, we need to set an example. If we're ever going to achieve unity, we have to set an example and create unity and cooperation among progressives. If we can't do it among progressives, we're screwed. Yeah,
right. And I think it wasn't at the heart of the issue, the heart of every lesser of two evils argument. Well, if I support you, then the other almost progressive that's more likely going to win is going to lose. Mm-hmm. And I feel like and I understand it's self-serving. Well, not for me anymore because I'm not even running. But it seems self-serving to say to vote your conscience. But at the same time, isn't it maybe time that we stop judging people for their votes? And maybe it's time we start encouraging people to vote and vote their conscience. Mm-hmm. So many people don't vote because they're like, ugh, well, I'm going to have to vote for one of those two. Otherwise, I'm going to get socially beat down by all these people who pay attention to politics and pretend like they know more. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I think it's time we just encourage people to vote their conscience. Or if they want to exercise their right of free speech to not vote, I think that's a valid perspective to have. Why? Because it is quite possible, certainly as we are seeing trying to run for office and gain signatures, and any other time you try to petition the government, whether or not it's trying to change police tactics or get SB-562 or whatever that number is signed, anytime you try and get the government to do something, you're met with resistance. And there is a valid perspective to say, you know what, that entire effing thing is a waste of time. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know what to do about it. And I think the one solution is the cooperative economy. I think it's a really good one. It's super easy. All it takes is enough people to understand the idea, and that's our responsibility here. Mm-hmm. But it's good to recognize that it is a valid perspective to have that government is a waste of time and is not an institution to be trusted. That's a valid perspective. So if someone says, I don't vote, I wouldn't be mad at them. I think that's reasonable in this day and age. And I think it's also reasonable to want to vote because you want to change your world. But I don't think it's a good thing. I don't think it's a healthy thing for all of us to continue to judge each other for how we view the world. And especially in our progressive community, I don't hang out in a lot of conservative circles and argue with them. For them, that's a different thing when I argue with them. But at least discuss anything in the progressive community. That is a major problem that drove us to division with Hillary, and then it drove us to division after Hillary with the Bernie versus, writing in Bernie versus voting for Jill, and it drove us to division after, now that Bernie's saying some stuff about Russia that some people don't like, but some people still want to follow Bernie because he gives them hope, and that's not helping us progressives at all. It's only serving, and it sounds a little crazy, but it's only serving the elite. It only serves those who have a financial interest in division. Right. And that's basically no one at the bottom. Everyone at the bottom gets screwed by the fact that we cannot get our crap together and talk to each other. Right. And if anybody was really actually learning or listening to Bernie's message, you would know that he wanted us to do this. He wanted normal people. He wanted everyday people to run. It was that? Hi, Tanya. We were just. Oh shit. Sorry, it keeps going away.
If you're still here, I just want you to know that I've got nothing but love for you. I think that we all have the same purpose here. We all have the same goal. We all met the same way. I don't think there needs to be any bad blood. So, anyway, so I talked about it a little bit earlier too, but it's live, so I wanted to just say hi and no bad blood.
So that was about 30 minutes of rambling. We got anything else?
Let's see.
We're going to do live stream tomorrow. We're going to do Friday and Saturday nights. That's our...
Yeah, we were told that a lot of people...
it's now her campaign. I'm just an advisor now.
Well, I still like the plural because this is
formerly known as.
Yeah. I still like the plural because like I want everybody to feel like this is their campaign. If you guys if there's hope to be seen, if we can pull together and hope for something better, it's that this campaign of with a normal person, if we win, then we can spark the Tanya Singhs to run for Congress.
Right.
And yeah, I would think that, I want to create a world where those people have the platform to make the changes that are necessary. And I think right now that the establishment puts up this, and I can tell you just from, social media and just, more briefly, the political circles in San Diego, that would, I got, the only thing that was missing from the Dems was basically a finger wagging about me, being a spoiler when there's 16 people in the race, and it's like that's not.
You're the one spoiler.
Right? Why don't a few Dems drop out? And it's like, they're like stop, or somebody dropped out because she was, serving the people instead of her own ambition, and it's like
you don't serve the people.
Okay, so I want to be home with my backyard chickens. I'm doing this because somebody has to. Somebody has to. There are so many leaders out there. Brian List, Jessica Penny, Jesse Meemer. There's so many, Stevie J, Justin Stewart. There's so many leaders that I've met through all of this. It's harsh med. That I want to be an example of how we don't need $2 million. We need each other to help promote a campaign of a real person who knows their community very, very well. And if we can get me elected, then the sky is the limit. Everybody that I just named, and then so many more people who I've seen right beside me fighting in the trenches. We want to make it possible so that we can run for these offices and take back our country. That's what Bernie told us to do.
Yeah. No,
and it wasn't Russia.
And it was, by the way, emails. But that's exactly right. That was what Bernie told us to do. And before there was that weird thing with the convention, he said, if I ever tell you who to vote for, don't listen to me.
Don't listen.
And that's the one that's the Bernie that I'm holding on to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the Bernie that, it's like I always wondered what was going to happen to Bernie after the election, because I was like, man, he's got a voice. Man, he's got a following. And I'm sorry, Hillary people, it's true.
Yeah.
But then it didn't, I was like, why isn't he talking about the stuff that we're all yelling and screaming? Because he's got the support. And it seems like, well, unfortunately, we have to stand up and be leaders ourselves. He's got whatever he's got going on for,
that's what he said
that's
to do.
why he's saying the Russia is real. I don't know if he's getting bad information or if we're getting bad information. I don't think it's us. But I think that when you are at that level playing that game, that there's a lot of other factors that we don't have to take into account. So we can just speak our minds and we can say what we see and speak our truth. And I don't know that at that level a lot of those people are even allowed to.
Right. And I'm not even just trying to to bash on Dems. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think there's Greens, that there are a lot of Greens that I don't really bash Bernie. If he says something that I don't agree with, I'll call him out. But
we should.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that we don't love Bernie. That's like that whole progressive heart thing.
Exactly.
Like if you disagree with it and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, why are you doing that to Bernie? I'm like,
right. But the people that were really truly woke, people who say like this woke movement or whatever, the people who truly say that they were woke by Bernie, it's because he kind of woke us up to this reality that our politicians, are not representing us, first of all, and really, that we can see it now. I can see it in any politician, including Bernie Sanders. So don't think that just because I'm trying to hold on to unity with some really important progressives means that I'm going to lunch with Hillary Clinton next week. So
you would if you could.
Oh God.
What would you say to her? I thought about that. I don't know what I would say. Like if I had a public meeting with Hillary Clinton, I don't know that there is anything I could say because I feel like our realities are so detached, and I don't know that there would be any middle ground because I honestly, I'm at the point where I think she actually believes what she says, and she gets information. They're like, well, the Russians did this, and she's like, well, yeah. Couldn't have been me. Well, and I honestly think that's how she moves through the world now. So I don't know that I would even have anything to say. Like we're in such a different reality.
Right. It's possible that it just it validates her whole existence right now. But honestly, like who cares like about her? Like next.
Well, she fell
I'm
down
a female.
some Indian
I'm
steps,
running
so
for office.
she made it in the.
I'm not a war hawk.
She's persisting.
I'm already against the next war.
I did not persist. I was 2 signatures short. And I'm like, I'm out. It's too hard. It's too hard. She's persisting. So, we need more women in office, right?
Yeah, I think so. So that's what we have for now. But we're gonna be back on tomorrow, and hopefully by the time we're done with our live stream tomorrow, Justin will be here in San Diego.
And maybe we can do an additional stream with Justin or something.
Yes, awesome.
Well, after he's been awake for like 18 hours, we'll throw him in front of the camera.
We'll just give him some coffee.
Yeah, that's true. I got a coffee maker. I just bought a coffee maker. It took me 44 years, and I love it. I love coffee now. That's a thing for me. All right, bye everybody.
Bye guys.